In 2021, nearly 700 families put in out-of-area applications to attend Parramatta High School, and they were all rejected. This is a common reality and trend for many parents who are looking to get their child in a school that has a better focus on academics but live in a different catchment area. For today's video, I'll be basing off data from the Sydney Morning Herald and other websites to explore why people make out-of-area applications, the challenges that are involved with this, and provide some alternative solutions for parents to consider. Let's get into it. Let's start off with a topic on what are catchment areas. A school catchment area is the area around a public school that can often dictate which students and children are offered a place at that school. They are measured in different ways and can even change a bit year to year depending on the number of applications that a school receives. For schools that have many applications and they are already all in the area, the catchment area will likely shrink. An example of this is Parramatta High School. While for schools that do not have many students in the area, their catchment area will likely increase. According to the Herald, in 2018, 43 schools across Sydney were half empty because parents overlook their local schools in favour of popular schools in out-of-area catchments. And this could be due to a variety of reasons. This is a growing issue here in New South Wales because depending on where you live, it can influence the school your child can be eligible to attend. For example, I personally live in South Wentworthville in Western Sydney, and at the time, my local enrollment area for public schools will be Greystanes High School, which is decently ranked, with it being ranked 266 in 2020 and a little bit worse in 2021, where it was ranked 345, compared to other options in the area, which are even worse comparatively. This is a bit of a gamble because depending on the school that is in my area, my academic future and school choices will be more limited. I could get lucky and have a great school, or I may be unlucky and have terrible options. This is the significance of the catchment area for parents and students, and it has to be a very big topic for them to consider. This leads on to the next point on why people want to go to different schools that are outside the designated local school catchment area. Let's go back to my previous example where I reside in South Wentworthville. If I wanted to go to a better ranked school like Parramatta High School, which is relatively nearby and close to where I live and is ranked at 161 in 2020 and 168 in 2021 instead of Greystanes, I would be considered an out-of-area applicant as I do not live in the set catchment area for Parramatta High School. I may be going purely for academic reasons because a school ranked 168 is a lot better, in my opinion, than is ranked 345. The academic benefit that I'll receive through year 7 to 12 will most likely benefit me more if I was a student at the higher ranked school, allowing me to get a better likelihood and chance to get a better ATAR in the HSC, resulting in more improved university prospects. Alternatively, it could be that I have friends who go to Parramatta High School instead of Greystanes, which is why I would prefer to go to Parramatta instead. This is the case for many parents who have kids that are quite shy and they prefer them to stay together and not to be too far away from them as well. In terms of if they're already hanging together in the same primary school, they want them to also be together in the same high school. It could be the same type of high school on offer in the catchment area, which is a single-sex school, and they just want to go to a co-ed school or vice versa. Another reason why people may want to move to another school is that it might be because of more subjective elements, such as reviews from other parents and students, extracurricular opportunities, subjects that are on offer in a certain school but not on offer in other schools, such as a certain language, and the list goes on. I've mentioned quite a few possibilities, but the increasing number of out-of-area applicants is usually coming down to the school ranking and one or more of the intangibles. This is also supported by the New South Wales Department of Education, who noted that the high number of out-of-area applications was largely due to the education standards provided. Parents and students who are not satisfied with the local school in their catchment area will become out-of-area applicants to try and change their school, but in the process, they face multiple challenges and problems. The first one is that local students are always prioritized. Local students who are actually in the catchment area are always prioritized over students who are not. Certain schools will also require proof where you have lived to show proof of residency and that the student has lived there for a certain period of time, typically for about a year and a half. This prevents parents who may just want to move there temporarily during the application period, only in year 6, to still get into that school and not be considered an out-of-area applicant. It is not a perfect solution, as parents who are more financially well off can simply move to an area well before year 6 to secure their place, and then after they have secured their place, they might move back. We know that at Leichhardt campus of Sydney Secondary College, which is a partially selective junior high school, they only accepted 16 out-of-area applications last year out of 64. So it means that it is not impossible to actually make it in, but the chances are slim, as they always prioritize local students. This leads on to point number 2. If you wanted to make an out-of-area application, there are 4 key criteria that they might prioritize you over someone else. The first is if you have siblings that are already involved at the school. The second is if a child with a disability or additional needs will be better equipped at that school. The third is medical reasons, such as improved access to a specialist local health care service. And fourthly, special interests and abilities such as language or music classes. There are other criteria beyond this, but these are the main ones that they have mentioned on their website. Applications for placement outside local enrollment area usually require separate forms, and you'll need to check with the school for their specific details. Although, since there are only a few spots available with many applications, there is not much opportunity to strengthen your application besides one of the 4 that I've mentioned. They typically do not require or accept school reports, reference letters, an interview, or etc., which makes it even more challenging to increase your chances and make your child's application stand out as an out-of-area applicant. At Parramatta High School though, as it is a partially selective high school, nearly 700 families that made out-of-area applications were rejected. This will mean that even if I wanted to go to a different school that is nearby, I could opt for a Catholic or private school due to my catchment area, which is an alternative and a solution. In saying that though, my local school, being Greystanes, is actually quite sought after compared to other schools that are in my area, who are even worse. Last year, for instance, Greystanes High School rejected nearly 150 applications from students who are not even in the area. This would be advantageous for me if I were in year 6 looking to go to that school, because I'm already a student in that catchment area. If you want to find out specifically where your local school is in terms of catchment area, visit schoolfinder.education.newsouthwales.gov.au, which is a free website that will tell you specifically where it is. Also note that these catchment areas are always subject to change, and every year they might change. We know that in Parramatta, for the last couple of years, they've actually shrunk their catchment area because of the high number of applications. But for a school that has very little applications, they will just keep making it wider and wider so that students will be more incentivized to try to go for that instead. I have nothing against private schools, but for some parents and for me growing up, they just can't afford the enrollment and school fees every year. Certain private schools that are very exclusive and are very sought after for the duration of year 7 to 12 can result in hundreds of thousands of dollars. Literally as much as to buy an apartment or a house here in Sydney. So you can easily imagine why it is not an option for many students and parents, which is why out-of-area applications occur, because they typically only involve for our public school system. Catholic schools are usually better in comparison compared to private schools in terms of fees, as they are more affordable. However, if you have a difference in terms of faith or you're not really religious, it might not be the same cultural fit that you want for your child either. Some Catholic schools will also ask for a letter from your church's priest. Catholic schools can also be very competitive, with Parramatta Marist High School rejecting hundreds of applicants each year as well. Finally, another solution or alternative that parents consider is to join a selective school or join a gifted and talented class in your local school. Joining a selective school is very competitive, usually only for the top 10 to 15% of the brightest students across New South Wales and the state. but they do overrule catchment areas. This is because they only base it on academic ability in the selective exam in Year 6. So when I was in Year 6, I lived in the Blacktown area, which is quite far away from Penrith, but I made it into Penrith High School, so I overruled the catchment area and I didn't need to worry about that at all, especially because the selective high school was a fully selective high school and every student could only get in based on their academic ability, and it's not based on where I actually lived. I have made numerous videos on this topic area on the selective exam and preparing for that, so be sure to check that out if you haven't already. Gifted and talented classes are also another option, although it is definitely not as good as a selective school in terms of academic standards. The gifted and talented class will be learning at a quicker rate in comparison to the non-gifted and talented streams, but it won't be as much compared to a selective class. Being in one of these classes will often indicate that your child or student is in the upper end of students in the grade, which will mean that they will typically have to work harder in Year 12 because they are one of the more gifted students. With a large proportion of the marks for the HSC is currently dependent on the other students that also do that subject in the internal area, it can often be viewed as more difficult in the long run. But it's another option that you can consider if out of area applications does not work out for you and you have to opt for something a bit more local. In conclusion, out of area applications are on the rise mainly due to parents wanting their child to go to a higher ranked school with better reputation. They face two key challenges with local students being prioritized first, and the selection criteria for students to determine out of area student is very limited. If you want to completely avoid this process of being an out of area applicant, you can look into buying a property and living there well in advance, which can be pricey, or look into a private school or Catholic school system, or even join a selective school, although that can be very challenging academically as well. Alternatively, you can just go to a local school that provides a gifted and talented class and be one of the more promising students at that school. However, this can have some ramifications leading into HSC, as they are one of the smarter students compared to the rest of the cohort. If you like this type of video, definitely give this a like. I would really appreciate it. And if you have any ideas for other future videos, make sure to put that down in the comments below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.